Alright, I'm going to talk to you about how to find the circumference of circles. And before I start, I just want to make sure that you understand a couple of things about circles. First of all, the distance all the way across the circle through the center is called a diameter, and that is abbreviated with a D. When you look at a circle, the distance from the center to the edge is called the radius, and that is abbreviated with an R. So I was posing the question, what is the relationship between the diameter and the radius of a circle? And that relationship is that a diameter is 2 times larger than a radius, or a radius is half the size of the diameter. Okay? And what I mean by that is, if the diameter of a circle is 8, what is the radius? So if you're looking at a circle, and you know that all the way across that circle is 8, the radius is half of that, and the radius is 4. And I would show it right here, but it would just overlap. So all the way across is 8, that's the diameter, then the radius is 4. If you have a circle whose radius is 12, all the way across that circle would be 24, because this is 12 as well right here, so it's another 12, so that would be 24. And it's in inches, because you're talking about length. So the unit isn't squared or cubed or anything, it's just the unit, so it's just in inches. If the diameter of a circle is 11 millimeters, what is the radius? Again, the radius is from the center to the edge, and so I kind of would run out of room right here. The radius is 5.5 millimeters. It's half of that, so it can be a decimal, or you could even write it as a fraction, 5.5. Okay? Now, so to talk about circumference, circumference means perimeter of a circle. We don't ever talk about perimeter of a circle, we refer to it as circumference. Okay? So if I took a piece of string and I started it here and I wrapped it all the way around the outside edge of the circle, and then I unstraightened it, I straightened it, and then measured it, that length would be the distance all the way around the edge of the circle, or the circumference of the circle. And so there's actually a formula that we can use here, and that formula is that circumference is equal to pi times diameter. And what that means is, any circle that you're given, it doesn't matter how small or how large that circle is, if you measure the diameter through the diameter of the circle and multiply it by pi, which is 3.14 rounded, you will get the circumference of that circle. Now, pi is a number, it goes on for a really, really, really long time. And so we're just going to use 3.14 for pi. We're not going to use the pi button on the calculators, because different calculators round pi to different values. Some use 3, some use 3.1, some use 3.14. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, we're going to use 3.14 for pi. Okay, so again, if you take any circle, regardless of how big or small it is, and you know the diameter of that circle, if you multiply it by pi, it will tell you the circumference of the circle, or the distance all the way around the circle. So, let's do a couple problems. All right, let's say if the diameter of a circle is 5 meters, what is the circumference? I want you to get in the habit of always writing the formula that you're going to use, because we're getting into where we are using a whole lot of formulas to find area, and we're getting ready to get into surface area and volume, and it gets confusing only because there's so many different formulas. But if you take it step by step and you write the formula, you plug it in, and then you use your calculator, it's not going to be so overwhelming to you. Okay, so I'm going to write the formula. Since we're finding circumference, I'm going to use the circumference formula, which is C equals PD, for circumference equals pi times diameter. And then the next step is to go in and plug in what I know. I don't know circumference, so I'm going to leave that as a variable. I know that pi is 3.14, because we just talked about using that value. And then the diameter, it even says right here, the diameter is 5 meters. So I'm going to use 5 for my diameter. So now I can get my calculator, and I'm going to type in 3.14 times 5, and I get 15.7. Or you may say you get 15.70, and that's okay. They are the same thing. Now again, since we're talking about distance, circumference is distance around the outside of a circle. We need to make sure we put our unit, but we're not going to square it or cube it. It's just 15.7 meters. So a circle that's 5 meters across is about 15.7 meters around, because remember, we rounded pi to 3.14. Okay. Okay. If the radius of a circle is 7 inches, what is the circumference? So again, we have our formula, C equals pi d, and we're going to plug it in. We don't know circumference. We know that pi is 3.14. Now we don't know the diameter, but we know that the radius is 7 inches. Well, if the radius is 7 inches, that means that the diameter is 14 inches. So we're going to plug in 14 for the diameter, and then we're going to use our calculator, and we're going to multiply 3.14 times 14. Sorry, and we get 43.96 inches. So if a circle has a 7-inch radius, then it has a 14-inch diameter, then that means it's 43.96 inches all the way around. And there's no need to round unless the directions tell you to round to a certain place, or if it goes on for a long time, you could round to the nearest hundredth, but otherwise just write what it says. That way you're just getting as close to the real answer as you can, okay? Now, what about this problem we have? What is the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 3.5 inches? So circumference is equal to pi times diameter. So circumference is equal to 3.14 times 3.5. So I'm going to plug all this in my calculator. And I get 10.99, and then that's inches. So if a circle has a 3.5 inch diameter, then that means that it's 10.99 inches around. And I know at this point you're probably thinking, oh, well, I already got this. Why do I have to write these formulas down? I promise it's a very good habit to write the formula, to plug it in, and then use your calculator, especially when you start completing assignments or tests or quizzes where there's a whole lot of stuff going on. Alright, so let's try another problem. I'm trying to find okay, let's try this. It says, what is the diameter of a circle with a circumference of 3.14 miles? So again, we're going to write our formula, C equals pi d, and we're going to plug it in. It says, what is the diameter of a circle with the circumference of 3.14 miles? So we know the circumference is 3.14. We know pi is 3.14, but we don't know the diameter. So this is a perfect example of why it really helps to write out the formula, okay? Because once I've got this all plugged in, this isn't a matter of multiplying these two things here, okay? What I need to do now is I need to say, okay, I want to isolate the d, the diameter, so I've got to get rid of that 3.14. So I'm going to divide it. We do the inverse operation to isolate a variable. So to solve this, I'm going to divide this side by 3.14, but I've got to divide this side by 3.14 as well. And when I do that, 3.14 divided by 3.14 is 1, and then I'm left with a d. So that means that my diameter is 1 mile.